Hi, and thank you for joining me in London Horror Society TV. I am Damon Rickard, and today we are going to be interviewing the Pierce brothers, Brett and Drew, who directed The Wretched, which is the film we will be discussing today, amongst other parts of their career. So before we get the boys on to have a quick chat with them, let's have a quick look at the trailer.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, neighbor. You see anything weird outside your house, you tell me, all right?
Dad, Mom's being weird.
Mom's always been weird.
What are you doing up here?
Don't let her in.
My son likes to play hide and seek. Can you bring him down?
I didn't say he was here.
You're a very stupid boy.
Can I help you? Is Dylan home?
Dylan, down here, baby.
You know, your son Dylan? I don't have a son. He had no idea who I was talking about.
Listen to Mommy! Stay, Dylan!
He's gone. I know it. I'd like to report a missing kid.
Are you okay, Ben?
Where is your sister?
I need you to tell me what's going on. Ben!
That was The Wretched, and I'd like to say welcome to the Pierce brothers, Brett and Drew. So say hello to the London Horror Society viewers.
Hey guys.
Cool.
Brett, Drew. Happy to be here.
Okay, so obviously here to talk about The Wretched. It was a film I was lucky enough to see with actual other people in a cinema. So that in itself these days is an experience, just actually having other people watching films with you that you don't live with every day.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen the trailer, but are you guys able to give us a quick rundown of what it's actually about and what people can expect from the film?
Yeah, it's a story about a teenage boy that moves in with his dad for the summer, and there's obviously some trouble at home. The parents are split up, and he's got issues with his father, and he becomes convinced that the woman next door, the mother next door, is not a mother and actually a 1,000-year-old witch living under the skin of this woman next door and stealing children. So her children.
Yeah. I think that of my neighbors all the time.
Oh, okay, cool. Good. Yeah. It's our natural fear of our neighbors. That's what we like playing around with. So
because that I was at Fright Fest and I saw Deadheads. Was that 2011, 2012?
Yeah, something like 2011
it came out.
Yeah, 2011, and then it was released in like 2012 finally. But
right. So that's quite a time period between that and this.
Yeah.
Is there any particular reason behind that? Or
for the money trucks to show up and
so what? They weren't just coming and dumping all the money at your door. Oh, that's just rude.
I mean, the truth is, we just it was a super indie film. Deadheads was, and we're super proud of it. But we went so broke making that movie. We didn't pay ourselves, and we basically paid rent for like a year and a half while we worked on the movie without a job.
Wow. Okay.
Ourselves. So we went from having a bunch of money in the bank to being so flat broke that we kind of had to recover. We basically had to like put our tail between our legs and get like regular jobs and try and get back to square one so that we could work on projects. And so it took us a while to kind of get Wretched up and running because we were so broke.
So we just kind of like, I started working as a producer in reality TV actually, because that was the only thing give me a job doing. And Drew,
I fell back. I went to school for animation. I used to work on Futurama. I quit that to make Deadheads, but then I got a job storyboarding, and I basically spent years sort of storyboarding other people's like features, commercials, TV, like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and then we were just like, we were miserable because we were like, we're not making our own stuff again. And we started putting it together to do The Wretched. We just wrote the script, and we started like just bugging people for money. And, you know, we eventually found it by putting together like a really slick package that convinced some independent people to finance our film. And we were back in business to make another movie. So, so it's honestly what it was. It was all money.
Which I think is the thing with a lot of first-time filmmakers that then can't go on to the second one. I'm sure, you know, I read on the internet a lot where people talk about how they've, you know, seen a film, they found a website for it. And I guess when you're talking about the things like people illegally downloading a Jurassic Park film, you know, you can kind of think, well, those studios can handle that money. But I think people can't differentiate between downloading that and then grabbing your film off the internet. And I think it's this side of the story that people don't get. Like, you know, people that have put themselves into this much debt to get this film to you, and you're just deciding, well, I want to watch it for free.
Well, honestly, every filmmaker would want to roll right into doing another movie right after. That's because like that's your goal, is to like make that career. But when you're making indie movies, it's not really. It takes a long time for it to be a career, and it's mainly passion that's fueling it, and your bank account is dying at the same time. You know, so you're like,
piracy is such a complicated thing too, because you know I was stealing software forever. You know, working on illegal software as a kid and all through college and everything. So like, and I also just feel like, when you make a movie, there's sort of two sides of the coin. It's like, you know, obviously you wish everybody would support it. Even the Jurassic Parks, like you want all these studios to make money. You want it all to filter down, ideally, just so they make more movies. That's all I want. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, you as an indie filmmaker too, I was actually like, even when we went initially with Deadheads, especially when I saw like there were like millions of downloads, I'm like, sweet, lots of people are seeing our movie, you know, which is just exciting.
Just not making any money from it.
Yeah. So yeah. It's just very difficult. It's not, you know, it's not the fun side of the thing. The fun side is making it, because you're just making it because you want to tell your stories that you're excited about. But it's the struggle is real for all indie filmmakers, man. Yeah.
So between Deadheads and Wretched, obviously Deadheads is, I think after Shaun of the Dead, you got the rom-com labels that went with films like that. So from something that was quite a sweet film to The Wretched, which had that human element to it, and did have that, the tale of almost like a coming of age story for the main protagonist in there. But obviously a much darker side to it. What made you decide to go in such a different direction?
I think we just were into the idea of doing a different type of movie. It's kind of like a thing, like when you finish one movie, you kind of get it out of your system. So we made this fun, like kind of, you know, like you said, sweet-natured kind of almost adventure film that happens to have zombies in it. It's like a road trip buddy comedy. And we also kind of embraced the goofiness of Deadheads because we didn't have a lot of money. So we're kind of like, you know what, we can be a little extra goofy. And that kind of weirdly kind of papers over our low budgetness, you know, in some ways. So I think we just kind of got it out of our system. And Drew and I had always wanted to make something more like The Wretched. And we'd always been attracted to like folklore, to like pull from old weird folklore to tell a horror story. And I just had a bug in my ear about, I'm a huge Hellboy nut. I read all the Hellboy comics. I have a complete collection, and I love all the folklore and stuff in there. And I was just reading about a lot of the witches in there and reading other stuff about them. And there was a witch called Black Annis or Black Annie that I just was really fascinated with. And I kept on bugging Drew. I was like, hey man, I think there's this cool myth about her. And I think we want to do something kind of like her, or at least that's inspired by her. And as we started digging into it, we were just like, there isn't a lot of like witch creature movies. So that's like, we can do something new, you know, and it'll feel a little bit different. And we just literally, Drew found another witch myth that we liked called the Boo Hag, which was based on an Appalachian witch. She's kind of like a skinwalker witch. She wears people's skins and walks around. And we just kind of took those two myths and smushed them together and created a couple other rules that we just thought made it more interesting, like the concept of the witch making people forget their children.
Yeah, I think we just felt like, you know, all of these other monsters, like especially vampires and zombies, we've explored every corner of how they work and the rules for how they work. And that's what makes it exciting is like, can the vampire come inside? You know, does garlic affect him? You know, there's endless rules. Like, does he have a shadow or a reflection? And we kind of felt like witches were just kind of this nebulous, like, you know, are they old hags out in the woods with big bellies stirring their pots, or are they hocus pocus? Like, there wasn't really any specific rules for a lot of them, and it's kind of like, and we just wanted to sort of turn it into more of a horror thing, like an actual creature.
Yeah,
same way, you know.
I mean, I was just being inspired by other stories and just kind of having, it was just a bug up our butt to make a witch movie for the longest time. So
yeah.
Well, you know, I think it's what, when you hear witch movies, people do have preconceptions about what they're going to be. And I think for me personally, you did break those preconceptions of what a witch movie could be. And, you know, finding Madeleine as well to do all the creature movements and everything. She was inspired casting for that because she definitely added that creep factor to your witch.
Yeah, she's so awesome. We found her on a audition tape out of Michigan. Just like we sent out a thing that said, just send us a video of you moving around creepy like you're a monster. And we got this crazy tape of her just like going,
yeah.
like
she was just
camera.
like a dancer who she used to do that as a gag to like creep out her friends. She'd walk around. She called it like her ring sort of movements or whatever.
Yeah.
She had all these like things, but yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah, she was a big fan. She was awesome on set because she never complained, and she was always in that makeup, and it was freezing cold.
Yeah, she's by far the most positive person we've ever had on any set.
Yeah.
Anywhere. I can't even imagine.
I'd say at Fright Fest, she was probably the one person who you just couldn't catch who was not ever smiling.
Oh yeah. She's the biggest sweetheart, and she honestly just like, she's actually ridiculously talented at playing a monster, which I just want other people to use her and have her play monsters and stuff because she's so good expressing things with her body. It's awesome.
Yeah. And you know, I think that's people don't quite realize the art behind that, because if you, for instance, if you watch Halloween and Halloween 2, the difference that the guy playing Michael Myers in Halloween 2 and the way his body moves compared to Nick Castle in Halloween.
Yeah.
As much as Halloween 2, as a kid, I loved the movie. Critiquing it as an adult and watching it as an adult, I actually find that version of Michael Myers very unscary and unthreatening because his body movement is so stiff and robotic.
Yeah, he walks around like a Terminator almost. Yeah.
Whereas Nick Castle had something so distinctly threatening about him.
Yeah.
I think we overlook the importance of somebody being able to do these body movements to make a villain scary, and Madeleine absolutely nailed it.
Yeah. Well, you're speaking our language. I mean, even just where I come from is animation, and you like with animation, you spend days working on walk cycles trying to figure out just like the slight little you know styles and characterizations of people. But yeah, we love that kind of stuff.
Also, the other thing we were very picky about, and the effects guy Eric Porn was and Drew was especially, is that you want to work with that person's face and their anatomy so that you're just not like burying them in it so heavily that there's really any expression or other things coming through. So there was a lot of like back and forth of like shave a little bit more off here. I want a little more. Yeah, we want to build up her brow, but not too much so it looks like there's like a shelf and nothing's moving up there, you know, kind of things. You have a lot of those discussions.
It's fine line.
Like we love, you know, CG effects. Like it takes a real artist. The thing that I hate is how people dismiss CG as just like CG is bad or like all CG is bad. But the truth is there's people that are so talented and there's this whole gradation of like, you know, and people that aren't so great.
Yeah.
But it's all about the artist. It's not about just CG, you know. That's kind of like we kind of get classified into I think people always want us to hate on CG because we love practical effects, obviously, and we're like the practical guys,
but there's
really
there's a place for both of them. You just want to like figure out what's most advantageous. The problem is sometimes lots of times with CG they're just like, well, we'll just do it in CG, like that's a solution. It's more like I want to do it in CG because that works better than practical in this instance.
Exactly.
You know, that's what you want to do, you know. So it's like,
and there is a a feeling in horror that practical works better for the genre, whereas sci-fi, obviously, CG would probably serve that genre better. Because there's one thing with horror I find they have not got right yet, and that is the blood splatters.
Yeah,
you can
it's the
see
one
a
thing,
CG to a practical.
Yeah. I still think every time I see him, it's just like I'm still like, even if you have a CG creature, you want the blood coming out, I would just still
do
blast some real blood and then paint over it instead.
You can always plus it.
Yeah.
But the truth, Brett and I were talking about this the other day, is if you watch every David Fincher movie with all the blood, like you watch Gone Girl and there's blood all over the place, it's all CG. It looks amazing. You'd never know watching that movie. You could never point it out.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I did not know that Gone Girl was CG blood for a lot of it. Yeah.
All of Fincher's movies, essentially, I don't think 7 necessarily is, but pretty much all of his, like it's cool to watch. If you look at the blood, just check it out sometime. Okay. It looks perfect. Yeah. Because he's so obsessive that like he wants the same blood spill every time to look, and he doesn't want to have to, he wants to do like 50 takes, and you can't reset somebody's shirt 50 times,
Yeah.
But the truth is it's kind of the preparation and having the really good effects people, not.
Yeah.
So in terms of like where the Wretched came, you talked about all the witch stories and everything you came through. Did you have film inspirations? Because obviously when watching it, things like Fright Night, Rear Window obviously come to mind for me. Were there directors or films that went for you in that one?
Yeah, they were definitely a big we love Fright Night. Fright Night's one of our favorite horror films of all time, especially even tonally, like other than just the Rear Window kind of neighbor next door thing. It's that Fright Night is scary, but it's also funny and it's really fun, and we love that kind of vibe. We feel like, I love all types of horror movies, but I feel like in the last 10 years, horror is extremely dark all the time. And I miss the variety of having a fun horror movie too. That's still scary. They can still be scary. Like Fright Night's scary. And I think we kind of aimed for like a Fright Night, Child's Play 1 kind of level of kind of horror movie, but also, visually a big inspiration was we were watching the original Halloween over and over again. And the inspiration wasn't story, but just in the cinematography and the way it was shot.
And the dread of that. Yeah, and like Hitchcock, he has like the voyeuristic sort of dread.
And I think we were just hungry too to like, we missed horror, because there's a lot of horror films and these can work too, but we wanted to kind of like take people into this like nice, like sailing town and make you feel warm and comfortable there for a while. Be like, wow, this place is really beautiful. Look at these houses, look at the sailing, the lake, and make you feel comfortable for a while, because we wanted to then like turn it on its head halfway through and make everything feel really uncomfortable. You're like, wow, I'm in this beautiful place and everything's
Jaws-esque.
Yeah. So it was, Jaws was a big inspiration. That was that was the whole reason we probably worked in the marina. Drew literally, with that marina, the original draft of the script, there was no marina. It didn't take place on the water, but Drew went to go visit his in-laws in Michigan. And they teach a sailing school at that marina. And Drew just like called and he's like, this is perfect. Hey man, we're gonna shoot it here. And he's gonna work at a marina. And I'm like, okay. So we figured it out based on, we were like, that's gonna look great in the movie. So
how much of a script rewrite did that then involve to be able to just replace where you're gonna have it set?
A bit. The script there were a lot of things that were different at the time, but one of the big ones, and it always felt like a cliche to us, is, Ben's dad, our main kid's dad, he was actually like the local sheriff or the local cop.
Yeah.
And we were like, this feels a little cliche, like anytime we were happy. We kind of switched it to they both work in the arena. And but we just wanted to give it a vibe and a personality. I love when locations in movies feel like their own character and feel like their own personality, like especially if it's a place that you want to go visit.
And rewrites were usually dictated by locations a lot, because we're an independent film, so our budget's got to get stretched. So you adapt to what you get, like the marina. But like even with the 2 houses, like when we went to see those houses and they were beautiful, we loved the houses, we want to use these. But all of a sudden we were like, oh, there's this amazing barn in the backyard, and like this interior of this barn, and they were never supposed to go in the barn in the movie. There wasn't a barn. We just wrote the ending to take it into that barn because it looked so cool and it was on the property. So we were like, well, instead of it being the basement of the house, this is way cooler. So let's adjust everything over to here. So it was very fortuitous that we found that place.
So can you give us sort of like a highlights of the production filming process that you went through? to bring this to the screen?
Yeah, well, I mean, it essentially probably started about 2017. I think Drew and I started looking for money for it. No, probably 2016, actually. We started looking for money for it. We spent about 2 years hitched up to a couple of production companies in California that it never happened with. And then we found an independent investor, and he basically had financed the entire thing, and and really wonderfully, this never happens, let 100% creative control on our end. Like, he never interfered with they never interfered with anything. And so in 2018, like in May 2018, we went to Michigan, where we grew up, and near the town where Drew's in-laws are, and shot the whole movie there. We were there for a couple of months. We shot for like 25 days. It went great. It was exhausting. We had a wonderful time, but we got it all done. And then Drew and I came back to LA, and we just started cutting it with our editor, Terry, over at Drew's house. And we probably cut for like 6 months till we got to a spot where we felt pretty good with it, and started submitting to film festivals, kept re-editing to make the movie a little bit better, finishing all the other posts that still need to be done, sound mixes, all this other stuff.
We realized in the midst of it that we needed a couple more scenes. We kind of had already built in that we thought we were going to go back for some reshoots, but we went and did like 3 days of pickups in Los Angeles. So we had to figure out how to match some of the locations and kind of the couple scenes. There were a couple of horror scenes that just didn't quite pay off the way we wanted to, or didn't have enough build because, tight shooting schedule sort of stuff.
Like if you watch the film, the opening scene with the babysitter is shot here in LA. That's a later edition.
Wow. You'd never, literally, you'd never know.
Yeah. We spent a long time driving up and down LA streets. Like, does that house look like Michigan? It's actually a house in downtown Hollywood, which is crazy. But
it's a funny like Rubik's Cube, the way you build this stuff. There's like sequences where there's like 4 shots in a row, and every one is in a different area. Like some of the shots are from Michigan. Yeah. Some of the shots are from LA and different locations. It's just wild how you can kind of piece stuff together.
And then probably one of the other major sequence in it that was like a pickup is we weren't happy with some of the cave stuff we'd shot back in Michigan. So there's a part where Ben's in the cave, he goes down into the cave, but then he gets down on all fours and crawls into a tunnel. The tunnel's all shot here in LA. We just rented this old ass tunnel from out in the valley and painted it to look like our cave, and constructed a little mini sequence in there.
We essentially, we wanted to do, we did our cave sequence, which wraps up our movie, and we had a space to shoot it in, but it wasn't massive, and we had so much that was going to happen down in there. And as much as we tried to make that cave feel as big as possible, all these cheats and things, we knew we needed more space. So we built this additional thing to have another sequence that felt like.
And weirdly, we were like, we just wanted a few more looks at the Wretch because she looks so cool, and we felt like, man, we really tried to hide her too much. We wanted a little more with her, so we shot a little more with her. But then we came back and we plugged all that stuff in and cut it together. And this was probably like, 2019 going into the summer. And we got accepted at the Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal.
Which
and we had,
incredible.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. And we had this great premiere. We sold out. We got a really good review in Variety, which really helped us back home in LA in getting the ball rolling with like getting it sold to IFC Midnight.
Yeah, we had finished the movie and we felt really good about it. But, at the end of the day, when you're going to get into film festivals, you're just like, I hope somebody out there cares.
Yeah.
Kind of the feeling. And it went better than we ever had hoped because that film festival in Montreal, they have a lot of press because they run a film market at the same time. So we actually got like a great review from Variety and a bunch of attention from sales agents, which helped us kind of get it into the hands of IFC. It feels like it's always just this like step ladder of like, oh man, I hope we can do that. And you're just climbing and hope you can get to the next rung.
And then it came around to the next year, and our release date was always May 1st, 2020. And we knew that like at Christmas time that we were May 1st, 2020. We're like, awesome. We come out the same day as Black Widow. And we're like, we'll be in 10 theaters. We'll probably last like a week or two in those 10 theaters. And it'll be kind of like, it's fun. A few people get to go see it.
And then going right into it, obviously, timing, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And, us, we'd worked on this film, for several years through the creation of it, but even several years through the script phase of it. So,
I still remember all the Instagram stuff you're posting up about the Hag movie.
Yeah.
So, I've been from the first stills you put out about it, I've been seeing this, and that has been quite a lot. I mean, I've still got the
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I love those cruise shirts because
Yeah.
they say that actually.
Yeah.
That's when your crew gets pumped. When
Yeah.
the day you give them all cruise shirts.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah. It's kind of like, don't worry, I've tortured you enough, and this T-shirt makes up for all of it, right?
Really
But
does.
Yeah.
we basically got to this point where we were just like, is our movie just gonna? We got this far, we got decent attention, we did well in the film festivals, but now is it just not going to get a release, and is it going to get squashed because of the pandemic? And IFC, to their credit, they said, there's some drive-ins opening. I think we can pivot and release it in like 15 drive-ins, and we were a little like nervous at first, like how's this going to go? Because it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. Every day was different, everybody was trying to figure it out. But it released and it did phenomenal. The first week it did really well, and each week we kept getting a huge chunk more theaters until it got up to over 100 theaters, drive-ins
across the country, and just like we got on Good Morning America out here about it, and like we just kept on seeing it. Just kept getting bigger, and every week Drew and I were like, okay, it's gonna be over with. This is the last week. Like, this is gonna be this good. But at last, we ended up being 6 weeks #1 at the box office.
I mean, that is insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Independent horror film #1 at the box office in America.
Yeah. It's great when you're like your mom who doesn't care about that stuff is checking like Box Office Mojo every day. She's like, you guys are still #1.
I love it because it's the most ridiculous Jeopardy question. We're tied with Avatar and The Sixth Sense, which are the only two movies in the last 25, 30 years to go that long of a stretch. But of course,
God,
they made $2 billion in the same time we made whatever.
We're almost $2 million in theaters, which is good for an independent.
For an independent movie, that's insanely good. I mean, you guys even hit the news over here.
Trust me, it felt the same here. Drew and I were just like, "What is going on?"
Yeah.
It was like, and like, we just couldn't believe it. And it's. I mean, we couldn't be happier about it happening. It was a weird thing. You're feeling so happy about something when times were pretty dark because everybody was afraid. But at the same time, I've said this before, but a friend of mine just said, like, hey, man, something good's happening to you right now when all this is bad. You should still enjoy it.
Not only that, but you guys became eligible for the Oscars.
Yeah, it's this weird thing is like things like that kind of just kept happening. IFC is like, oh, they would hit us up and be like, by the way, we're submitting you guys for consideration at the Oscars. And we're like, what? so and like we were like, well, maybe we got a shot at special effects or something.
Can you give us a favorite memory from the shoot, each of you?
Oh man,
I think for me it was. I mean, there's just a scene that I just felt so good about. There's that confrontation scene between our kid and the witch, essentially at the bottom of the stairs.
Is that where the shadow comes up?
Yes. And that was a scene. I mean, we had, we storyboarded the entire movie and did a lot of pre-planning and stuff. And, we mentioned before how like locations change things, but that scene just felt exactly how we had planned it.
Yeah.
And it even better. Like I love that,
we were kind of,
performance there was great in it.
Drew always says like we wrote the movie to do that scene. That was kind of like the thing that kept driving us is we just loved that scene so much. And it's also like, despite it being like kind of simple when you watch it, doesn't seem like it's complicated. It was actually really complicated to pull off because those shots are actually taking place on like 3 different locations just to make the geography of there's stairs here and there's a door here. And we had to go shoot it on the other doorstep and flip the door to match this. So it's all these cheats that make it work.
It sounds so silly. It's stuff you wouldn't think about.
But it was just like we were so excited.
It just it's so exhilarating. It's so exciting when something comes together the way you kind of planned it like a year or 2 prior, and it sort of feels even better. It's just so exciting. And that was one of those
and we kind of got the best compliment about that. Like it wasn't said to us, but Drew watched this. There's this 50 States of Fright, which is this like Sam Raimi produced horror series, and Sam directed like 1 or 2 of them. And we showed him The Wretched right before he went to Fantasia, and he really liked it. He was really into it. And Drew is watching 50 States of Fright, and there's a shot just with like the shadow creeping over the stairs in the same way. I think Sam Raimi lifted our shot. Yes.
Sam Raimi, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But
I don't know. Felt like it. So yeah, we'll see.
Just being able to say I showed Sam Raimi our movie before we went to the festivals. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Well, this idiot right here, like I go in there and I'm like, I don't want to sit next to him because like that's just weird. I don't want to be able to see him watching my movie. That's a really weird thing. Drew sits down right next to him. I'm like, all right, let's watch the movie.
I'm with Drew on that one. do that.
You get to show Sam Raimi your horror film.
It was so funny, but it's awkward because it's us two, Sam's assistant, and Sam. That's the only people in the room. So it's like it's very nerve-wracking.
So, you say that like it's an everyday occurrence. How did that happen?
We just asked. I mean, we know Sam a little bit from when we were kids. Like, we were really little.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah,
people watching this may not know, but do you want to?
Oh, okay. Yeah, our dad did the photographic effects for the original Evil Dead. But like we probably see Sam once every 6 years, like briefly or whatever. And I just hit up his office and said, "Hey man, I finished this movie and I really want to show it to Sam." And they made it happen. And Sam was totally cool. You just got to work around his schedule just because he's a busy guy. But it was great. It was just a little nerve wracking, but I think he was just like super excited to see these like two little dopey kids grow up and make a horror movie that he liked that were waddling around on their set. Yeah.
So he's gone from inspiring to ripping off.
Yes.
That's a pretty good circle.
Anybody. Yeah. Yeah.
So for you guys, could you give me, you can do it together or do it each. What were your top 3 horror films that you saw last year?
We're probably going to have a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
I mean, we both loved Invisible Man. That's kind of an obvious one. I mean, it's just it was so simple and so effective.
Yeah.
And the inversion of what that is, and we love to sort of play with like the classic monsters, kind of like that. So that one was
I know like a lot of people always want to bag on the big budget like studio movie, but I'm like, well, it's a pretty damn good movie. It is a good movie.
But as far as all the, I mean, a lot of the other stuff we love are probably indies. The Mortuary Collection, we're huge fans of.
Yeah.
He's our buddy now, Ryan, and just loved that movie. I mean, it's just got its own vibe. It feels like Sam Raimi and Danny Elfman had a baby. You know, it's just, I love the anthology movie.
Yeah. Did you see Swallow? I love
Swallow. Swallow is very good film. Yeah.
And it feels like in this weird middle ground where I feel like very few people are going to see it, but it's such a beautiful movie. It's not quite horror, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
But that was just awesome.
Those are probably the 3 that I liked the most in last year.
I really loved Come to Daddy.
I love Come to Daddy also.
I love movies that feel like they're going one completely different direction and then sag into a different genre. Like I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I'm adding too many, but I also really love Bliss. I like Joe's movie Bliss a lot.
Yeah, and that was, compared to his other stuff, that was quite a departure for him.
Yeah. It's the most
That's my favorite movie of his.
Joe Bigos movie I've ever seen, and it's just so cool and so visceral and just like
I just feel like you're on drugs.
Yeah,
I felt like I was inside his mind during that film.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know why, man. I would never be able to make that type of movie, and the fact that I love it so much is such a weird thing, but I just think it's such a cool movie. I can't believe what he made it for, how he pulled it off, everything like that. So yeah.
Is there anybody that if you had the opportunity to, and for you guys obviously being directors, I'd probably be actors, actresses, whatever, or producers even, is there anybody you would love to work with?
Oh, there's a ton. But I know Drew wants to work with Sam Raimi.
I'd love to work with Sam. Yeah,
as a producer or as him as a producer.
I've heard him talk a bunch, and Sam is just the sweetest guy, just in general. He appears to be sort of like reserved, but I think he's actually really. I've heard him talk about how much he works to protect the creative vision of his directors. I think he'd just be an awesome director.
Yeah, he has a really good reputation of just like caring about the movie so much, and the filmmakers making the movies that they make the movie they want to make. That like outside of just loving his movies, that's like so attractive to a filmmaker, just because you also hear a lot of horror stories about like other situations with other producers and stuff.
Yeah. What's up next for you guys? Is there anything in the works, or are you writing? You planning anything?
We're writing. We're also planning.
Yeah, we're writing, planning. We're doing it all, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever been this productive in our lives. We have so many projects. I just don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Well, a bunch of horror stuff, mostly horror stuff.
Yeah.
And a couple of things that are kind of comic book based.
Comic book related TV shows.
Some TV, some film. Yeah, but stuff there's several things that we're just so excited about.
Yeah. None of them are like 100%, but there's a lot of things in the works. And hey, we just finished a very extensive treatment for The Wretched 2.
Nice.
Yeah. Who knows if it will get made, but it's going to be going out into the world here in the next week.
So have Netflix been approaching you guys yet?
Oh, we've talked to Netflix. Yeah. I mean, the one big benefit of having, in the trades like Variety and out here for 6 weeks, all these production companies, these studios had to open it up and be like, what the hell is this? The Wretched that's #1 for 6 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So that has been a huge door opener for us, so that we've gotten to kind of like, we've been doing the thing every filmmaker does when something good happens to you, is you do the water bottle tour, but over Zoom, where you meet everybody at every studio and at every production company.
Usually you get a water bottle. We got no water bottles.
Yeah, we had no water bottles.
Oh, okay, I gotcha, yeah.
Yeah, that's why they call it that.
Yeah.
So we've been meeting with everybody in town, and we got some things cooking, but the truth is, you never know what's happening until you're spending somebody's money and shooting.
Thank you guys for so much for taking the time out to talk to us about it, and we look forward to seeing whatever you guys do next. I for one will be absolutely there, and I'm hoping you bring it to Fright Fest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Taking anything we can to Fright Fest, just because we want an excuse to see all you guys again.
Yeah.
So,
A few drinks in the Phoenix I think is long overdue.
Yeah. We brag about it to every filmmaker that makes a new horror movie that hasn't done the horror fest route. We're like, you got to go to Fright Fest, man.
You have to. It's there's lots of festivals you can go to, but I think if you can come back and say you survived Fright Fest.
Yeah. Nobody drinks like the English, we've realized.
Thank you so much, guys, for taking time to talk to us. It was wonderful being able to discuss The Wretched with you. So for all our viewers, if you haven't yet seen it, go out and see The Wretched. It is a wonderful little horror film, and I'm sure you'll then be wanting to quickly find out what these guys are going to produce for us next.